We should take in my brother's kid.
One day, my husband suddenly said that he would take over their child. He didn't even bother asking for my opinion. I'm reaching my limit with his increasingly arrogant behavior. I have to do something about this situation for the sake of my daughter and myself. My name is Carrie. I've been married to Scott for 5 years, and we've been together for 7. We have a lovely daughter named Tracy. She is 3 years old and has just started preschool. Life is simple, but peaceful and happy. I wouldn't trade my life with Scott and Tracy for anything. Then one day, Scott's brother Daniel got divorced. Daniel and his wife had a 4-year-old son named Bobby, and Daniel took custody. But it seems taking care of the kid was harder than he thought. Soon after the divorce, Daniel left a note and disappeared, leaving Bobby at their parents' house. Scott and I were called to his parents' house for a family meeting. The first thing his dad said was,
Scott, Carrie, could you please take care of Bobby?
I couldn't believe my ears. Wait, you want us to take care of Bobby?
We're getting old and it's getting tough for us. You already have Tracy, right? What's one more kid?
That's a bit much. Scott's parents have high blood pressure and frequent doctor visits. His mom even had a stroke before, so I knew they weren't in the best of health. I know it's hard for both father-in-law and mother-in-law, but we have Tracy, and taking on another child is just too much. Scott and I both work, so it's not like we're struggling financially, but that's beside the point. We're busy with work and already exhausted from taking care of Tracy and the household. We can't possibly take care of a growing 4-year-old like Bobby. I decided to be upfront and declined right there. I'm sorry, but we can't take Bobby in. We have Tracy and we're both busy with work. His dad wasn't moved by my words and kept pushing. I'm really sorry, we want to help, but we can't.
Can't you take him for a while? We can't afford it.
I can't, I'm sorry. Then Scott, who had been silent, clicked his tongue and glared at me.
Carrie, what's wrong with you?
Excuse me?
Don't you care what happens to Bobby?
Well, your parents could.
So you're just gonna dump it all on them? You're the worst.
Wait, what? How did this turn into me being the worst person here? I was just saying we can't take in another child because we have our daughter Tracy. Confused by Scott's outburst, I responded, Wait a minute, Scott. Like I said, we have Tracy.
So what? Tracy is 3, Bobby is 4. They're practically the same age. Stop making a big deal out of one more kid.
One more kid? Do you even understand how hard parenting is?
We both work, we can manage. Don't you feel sorry for Bobby?
Scott continued to blame me for refusing to take in Bobby. And what's worse, from his tone, it's clear he has no intention of helping out. I'm a parent too, and I do feel sorry for Bobby. But parenting requires a lot of commitment. Scott has never really helped with Tracy or the housework. I've been the one doing everything. If we take in Bobby, I can see it all falling on me. I have to stop this. Look, I can't do it. I can't give Bobby the same love and attention as Tracy.
What? He's my brother's kid. How can you say that?
Remember what I told you before? Bobby has been towards Tracy.
That story again.
Yes, there's another reason I don't want to take in Bobby. He's always been clingy with Scott and me because his parents never gave him much attention. that would be fine. But whenever Tracy comes around, Bobby becomes openly hostile.
Hey, get lost! Don't come here!
Tracy always starts crying at Bobby's words.
Stop crying! Go away, you ugly kid!
He's thrown toys at her and even pushed her down multiple times. Even if he's just 4, I can't stand how Bobby harms my precious daughter. If we take him in, he'll surely target Tracy again. I have housework and a job. I can't watch them every second. I've tried to explain this to Scott multiple times. I don't have the confidence to care for Bobby properly. I don't want to start something I can't finish.
What? Just try harder. He's my brother's kid. He's no different from our own.
What are you talking about? They're completely different. I'm already overwhelmed with just Tracy. Scott doesn't lift a finger to help with our own child. He doesn't understand the challenges of parenting, so he can easily say,
"Let's take him in."
As much as Bobby is family, my daughter is my priority. I can't love him the same way I love Tracy. The love for the child I gave birth to is unparalleled. If I go along with Scott and his parents, I'll regret it. If Bobby treats Tracy coldly and she gets hurt, it's all for nothing. I must avoid making Tracy sad at all costs. Like I said, I can't. If you want to take him in, you take care of him.
What's that supposed to mean? We're taking him in so we don't burden my parents. That's final. Got it?
Scott probably just wants to look like he's a good son to his parents. In the end, he unilaterally decided we take in Bobby. Something has to change. Feeling this way, I took Tracy and went back to my parents' home. I explained the situation to my mom who greeted us. So that's what happened. Scott wants to take in Bobby without even listening to me. My mom frowned, clearly concerned. You've mentioned before that Scott doesn't really help with Tracy, right? Yes, exactly. He leaves all the housework and childcare to me. Taking in Bobby would just add to my burden. And on top of that, Bobby has been hostile towards Tracy. Yes, that's why I can't agree to take him in. My mom understands me well, as I often consult her about various issues. She agreed, saying, "Taking in Bobby would only make things harder for you." I spent the night at my parents' home, indulging in their care. The next day, I found a slew of voicemail messages from Scott on my phone.
Running off to your parents won't change my mind. Bobby was happy when I said he could come. Don't trample on a child's feelings. You're basically Bobby's mom now. Get back here and take care of the house.
His unreasonable demands left me more stunned than angry. Ignoring his messages, I turned off my phone. Scott, reaching his limit, showed up at my parents' home. I can't keep running away. I decided to have a face-to-face conversation with Scott. We asked my parents to leave the room, creating a space for just the two of us. As soon as we were alone, Scott started yelling at me.
Hey, apologize to me right now.
What?
What do you mean, what? Running off to your parents and neglecting the housework for 2 days?
Apologize? Why should I? It's absurd that he expects me to do all the housework when we both work. Annoyed by his selfishness, I responded calmly. Do you still not understand why I went back to my parents? It's because you're not listening to me.
What? I never thought you'd be so cold. Don't you feel sorry for Bobby?
Scott, catching his breath, continued.
Bobby is my brother's son.
Then let me ask you, you don't even take care of Tracy. Do you really think you can handle Bobby too?
Whatever, it'll work out. Bobby is older than Tracy. He can take care of himself. He might even be easier to handle.
That's not the point. Bobby pushed Tracy before and couldn't even say sorry. He's not well disciplined. How can you say he'd be easier to handle? I can't do it.
You're so stubborn.
Scott sighed, looked at me, and said something unbelievable.
Listen, you're my wife, and a wife is supposed to obey her husband. That means if I say we're taking care of Bobby, you have a duty to follow.
Are you serious? I asked.
Of course I am. You just need to listen to me. We're taking Bobby in. End of discussion.
Scott slammed the table and glared at me. That was the last straw. I looked him straight in the eyes and said, "Can you stop? Why do I have to obey you just because I'm your wife? I'm not your personal servant, you know."
What are you even talking about?
The one saying incomprehensible things here is you, Scott. Bobby is just a relative to me right now. If we divorce, he'll be nothing. Do you get that?
Wait, what?
Scott was clearly shaken by the mention of divorce.
Divorce? Why are you bringing that up now? We're not getting a divorce.
Why do you get to decide that? That's up to me, isn't it? Don't tell me you think I can never dislike you, because I'm already fed up.
You're joking, right?
Do I look like I'm joking? I can't take Bobby in, emotionally or otherwise. It's just not possible. Scott finally seemed to grasp the gravity of my refusal. Still, he tried to maintain his composure and said,
Stop it. If we divorce, you're the one who's going to suffer.
Suffer? How?
You'll be a single mom. Can you raise Tracy on your own?
I don't see why not.
What?
Scott was dumbfounded by my unexpected answer. Regardless of him, I continued. I've been silent about this because of your pride, but I actually earn more than you. I have more than enough to raise Tracy on my own.
That can't be.
Plus, if we divorce, I'll move back to my parents' home. They adore Tracy and are much more reliable than someone who doesn't help with housework or childcare.
What the hell is going on?
Scott was stunned, clutching his head in disbelief. Realizing he couldn't win, he clenched his teeth and left without another word. I couldn't help but chuckle at the look on his face. I later found out that Scott had told his parents behind my back.
We'll take Bobby in and Carrie will take care of him.
How far will he go to save face? My refusal to take Bobby and my return to my parents' home threw a wrench in his plans. Scott and his parents were in complete disarray.
We can't take Bobby because Carrie went back to her parents. It's impossible. What are you talking about? We already said we couldn't take him. You were the one who insisted. That's because Carrie's not here. Then you take him. You earn enough to support one child, don't you? Why should I take him? Send him back to his dad, his real dad.
Scott exclaimed. We still had no idea where the brother-in-law was, and his ex-wife was unreachable. In the end, Scott had no choice but to take responsibility for Bobby. As for me, living apart from him made me realize there was no point in staying married. When I finally brought up divorce, Scott seemed to grasp the gravity of the situation. Over the phone, he pleaded, tears in his voice.
I'm sorry. I'll help with the housework and childcare from now on. Let's figure out what to do about Bobby together, okay? Please forgive me.
No, I can't.
What?
Why should I believe you now? I've given you so many chances. I've asked you to help and cooperate, and you've ignored it all. It's too late to ask for forgiveness.
But...
I'm not heartless. If Scott had been helping with childcare and housework, if he had shown a willingness to work together on Bobby's situation, things might have been different. But the one who dismissed my feelings from the start was Scott himself. I'm not naive enough to believe his convenient promises. We officially divorced after that. Of course he's obligated to pay child support for our daughter. Between taking care of Bobby and now having to pay child support, his disposable income will likely shrink. He's still searching for his brother, but with no luck so far. Apparently, he's having a hard time managing Bobby. Well, he brought it upon himself. As for me, I'm living peacefully with my daughter and parents. I do feel sorry for Bobby, abandoned by his biological parents, but I hope my ex-husband learns just how hard housework and childcare can be.